go live, and that's where we are. So it said. So it said in the manual. There we go. Starting. Yeah, man.
Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, I reckon we must be live, eh, guys? Folks, welcome to another HotBox podcast where we'll be talking Lank Dank. I'm joined this evening by Dan, Steve, and Jules.
Yeah, man.
Guys, welcome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to another great.
HotBox podcast.
Oh yes,
It's quite hot in here already, I must admit.
Yes, it is.
It's been quite
Summer's just about to get round the corner.
a 15-minute catch-up.
Oh no, it's pretty danking here already. Basically, the theme tonight, folks, will be dabs and terps. You know, BHO, rosin, CO2, all those things. But I think before we get into the deep end, maybe we should just quickly talk about what we understand dabs to be. So for some of you guys, how I understand it, a dab is basically a high-end hash.
Not a dance move.
Not a that you make by using either heat or solvent to isolate the trichomes off the plant into a concentrated form. And in my mind, the reason it's always been called a dab is because then you would only use a dab of it. That sounds right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and the dabbing, yeah. Okay. For me, being old, I just see it as a 21st century hot knife. We grew up on hot knives. We get something very, very hot and drop some hash on it and go, and that was the essence of the plant. Normally some really good 1970s charas or something, but there was always ash between the two knives. But with a dab, we got rid of all of that, and now it's just the bit. It's just the illegal bit. The ash isn't illegal. We've just managed to find the illegal bit.
I say it's a 21st century hash.
Yeah.
Hash has changed. Hash, well, not the name hash. Hash has always been hash, but it's dabs. It's like this edible alcohol that you get.
Yeah.
It's a new innovation of what's come out of years of experimenting with the plant.
Yeah, I also feel like it's that evolution, because in theory, like hash, tinctures, and concentrates are actually pretty old.
Well, it is. It's concentrated. It's been there for thousands and thousands of years already. We're not inventing anything new, guys.
I think we're just sort of perfecting.
Imagine what we'd have got up to if there had never been prohibition. Imagine what we would have got up to. We've done this completely behind everyone's backs, you know. All of the developments of all of this plant pretty much have been sneaky.
Of course.
Imagine what we can do when this thing bursts wide open.
Sneaky and ingenious thoughts, thinking into using pre-scientific procedures and existing alchemy to do it. It's there. It's already been done. It's a matter of just you got to just wake up. Stoners
thinking up the next way of getting
but
high.
They're not exactly. It's already there.
How are we going to get high next, boss?
The evening is bitter pop, guys. It's going to be dank in here. But yeah, it's that evolution, and I don't know. It's in a sense for me though. In a sense, and hear me out. If I can compare it to anything I'm seeing with dab, the closest thing I can almost compare it to is like sugar, because it gets refined to a point where it is like crystal and at its least flavor point and all those things. So it's becoming also this common denominator where it's not just a product that you buy and use, where people are buying it and then using it as a base in edibles and other things.
I think that's what's good about it. It's such a versatile thing. You've got the concentrate and do whatever with it. I hear you can even make a suppository. Yeah. But don't get the two mixed up. Edibles and suppositories just don't put them in the same cookie jar.
But in suppositories, you don't have any psychoactive effects. So typically people use those, right, for that purpose.
I reckon you get pretty damn goofed out after it. But the person who first pioneered it for us was one of an advocate, Stranson Ford. He got into suppositories really early on, and he was convinced that because it was further away from your head, the less of an effect it would have, or it would take longer to get to your head, or something. I don't know. I haven't been that route quite yet. I've done just about every way of taking cannabis. That's the next. That's the next.
There's no need. You only get there when there's the need.
Going back to the concentrate bit, I keep seeing online pictures of like white THC crystals that look like
isolates. It's isolates.
Right.
Isolates, yeah.
Can somebody explain that to me, please? Because that is
99.
How do I get to that?
That's THCA isolate.
Yeah.
So it's a THCA.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
It's a THCA isolate.
I didn't realise.
Through
It's
obviously a whole lot of scientific procedures.
But it doesn't get bussed through butane, no? Nothing like that.
Well, it can. That's the last part of it. This is a very long process to go through. I mean, you've got to start off with
when you say THC,
what's it for?
It means it hasn't been decarbed, which means it hasn't been activated.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't get stoned on.
So you can stick it in your hall, or your nose, or your mouth, and you wouldn't get high.
Or you can dab it.
The moment you dab it, you get high.
Yes, but you can take it any other way without getting high.
CBD is also available in an isolate form.
Yeah.
Right, in a crystalline form, also 99.7% pure.
Have you ever seen it?
Yes, I have.
Is it like sticky?
Isn't it
like sugar granules?
I've seen pictures of that.
Does it shake?
Yeah, it looks like if you get caught by the cops, they're going
It's
to lock you
crack.
up for crack or cocaine.
That's
what
I
exactly
get.
the end of the story.
Exactly.
You're not going to get out of
like
it
that.
unless they test it.
But it's 18 months to test something.
So you literally in the system.
Say, well, the docket gets covered more and more in dust as we go along. But they do rear their ugly heads. The bust of the week, if I want to just digress a minute, is a young man in Kwakwa in Natal, in the middle of nowhere. It is. I don't know whether you know that part of the world, Golden Gate, beautiful part of the world, brutal winter. So we get this, I think last week I brought the thing with me, a long rambling thing about this whole domestic dispute, and the guy was boiling weed to use for his heart condition. He's 22 years old, and there was something about this letter. So this week I rang him personally. I very rarely get personally involved, but there's something about it. He's a law student that can't carry on because he hasn't got any money to do the third year or something. So now he knows how to do, he knows about the Judge Davis, he knows about Join the Queue, and now he's got hold of the man himself, and we work a plan, and he went into court yesterday to start the proceedings for the first day of prosecution in the Free State.
Excellent.
Wow.
We haven't got a Bloemfontein one yet.
Well done.
So would you believe that rambling thing that was just out to lunch with circumstance and the twin sister and the cousin and my aunt, my man, the aunt.
It was like an episode of Generation. And
the guy and the cop clapping him over the head all the time, physical abuse and lots of people to say so. And now he said, listen, I've got loads of people that have been treated the same way, that would join the same queue. So now he's got this ally and he's buoyant, and we'll just see what happens with that. Sorry, but that's cool news about. Just by chasing it up, he wrote it. I read it 3 times, couldn't believe it, and because it's traditional medicine, he's been told by a Sangoma to boil this shit and then drink the tea of it. And the thing was, he had half a kilo of it, and the people who wanted to get him had it wrapped up in baby clothes. To prove that there's weed and babies in the same clothes.
It was sordid.
It says, fuck, it was sordid, dude. And 0 punctuation. It was written out of sheer frustration and anger. And another thing, and another.
With a broken English, I'm sure.
And remember, for all you guys that think it's legal and all you guys that think it's cool to smoke at home, just watch yourself, because you will end up in deep shit in seconds, because there'll be some son of a bitch cop who will clap you over the side of the head because he just doesn't give a shit. They're still there trying to prove a point. Yeah. Anyway.
So, back to dab.
Yes, sorry.
Back to dab. So, in my mind, there's a couple of categories of dab, or ways to get to the end result. There's butane hash oil, which is when you use butane to extract it. There's rosin, which is when you use a straightening iron or heat press. And just to give you guys an idea, a trichome at room temperature is solid. And think about water in this sense. So at room temperature it's solid. At a warmer temperature it'll go liquid. And at a higher temperature it'll vaporize. So from rosin, I think they just get it in that liquid state. And then when it gets back to room temperature it gets a bit more solid. And the other option that I hear about is CO2 extraction. So before we get into all the others, I'm going to forget this. You said you're one of the few people, and this is very rare shit in SA, CO2 extracted dab. You've been there, you've done that.
Yeah, I have tried it, yes. I've tried it, and it really works exceptionally well. I actually used a Firefly 2, and it worked phenomenally. A nice little vaporizer, it's a handheld.
Yeah, I was going to say handheld. Yeah.
Handheld, very cool, so you don't have the rig situation happening, and it's so convenient to use, and it really was incredible. It really worked exceptionally well. So the dabbing from that was
What about
phenomenal.
the taste? What about the taste?
What did it taste?
Taste was.
Doesn't it strip it of all of the nuances?
Do you know? For me, the flavouring was really intense.
Was it?
I suppose we spoke earlier about how the full terpene profile probably is not available in the CO2 extraction. Yeah. But for me, when I tried it, it was really flavourable, delicious.
Well, here it's got a really good yield.
Yes, it would.
It's got an excellent yield. It's such a close loop.
Was that your first dab? Like, was it your? And when I say first, I'm saying was
second.
Like,
Second
so
ever.
So what it is basically is flavors. I'm just saying so the different, you wouldn't know the different flavor of a different CO2 extracted.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
Okay.
So it's very hard to tell.
But it's still flavoursome. You still say it's
exceptional.
Yeah.
Exceptional.
It'll be very clean. If you think about it, it'll be very, very clean.
Yeah.
It can be a very clean product.
And price-wise, what does a person pay for CO2 extracted dads?
When I bought it, it was 1,200 rand, and I do believe it even goes more expensive than that. It all depends, indeed, what they're going to be using as the base material. So, in other words, if you're going to be using just a ruderalis, for example, or a high-end, expensive strain, if they're going
it's
to
all yield dependent, I suppose.
Yeah. Indoor, outdoor, greenhouse, whatever's best. I guess whatever.
I don't know. I don't think it's for a recreational market. I think it's more of a medical application. The way that it's set up and the way it does the same time, and again, it almost, because it does strip a lot of the terpenes out of it, it just keeps it even more standard as a product for medical use, perhaps.
It tastes great though.
I just keep going back to butane all the time.
The cost of that equipment also for CO2 is quite high.
It is in this. Is there anybody making it in SA yet? Did you import equipment?
No.
Sorry, no, you don't even have to answer that.
That's no question.
Yeah, sometimes you just forget where you are.
Yeah. There might be a crowd. There must be a crowd.
No, there must be.
You know what?
You're not going to send that through. They're not going to be able to send that.
I hear it's to do with the seals and stuff. It's all to do with. It's not so much making up the components out of stainless. It's actually the seals in the pumps and stuff that
You have to be a mechanical, chemical engineer almost to be able to always have to put together and strip that system, maintain it, and make sure that everything is closed and tightened and completely set up to the right degree. Otherwise, if that thing has one leak, you are gone. It's
and also you must
high pressure.
Yeah, you could say that for all extraction, really.
Well, yes.
You know, we run the risk of doing butane extraction all the time in our alchemical state, you know, in a workshop somewhere with a fan going.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't and inadvertently light a joint while you're thinking about shit, you
should rather just do it on the side of caution. I think it is.
Yeah, big time. No, we take major precautions because what we do understand is physics.
Yes.
And if you understand physics, dabs will come to you. But there's a classic story I heard of everybody they'd finished. They went inside in the Free State near Rustlers. Mm-hmm. They did everything out in the back overhang outside, and then they came in and they all parked off on the couch at this level and lit something, and there's a fucking blue flame came straight from there towards them because that's where the butane is, dude. And they all went and lay on the couch, and that's where it all is.
Now, how much butane would you use to create a dab or an extraction to that? Use quite a bit or not?
No, look, most really good systems reclaim it anyway. You get very little loss.
I mean, yeah.
But look, for the most part, most people are just. They've got a pipe that big and they're running 100 grams or something at a time, 50 grams. Even 20 grams, you know, with just lighter fuel.
So
like a...
Lighter fuel is butane.
Yeah.
But you know, you're going to have to use the cleanest maybe.
And little runs, you know, little private bin reserves.
Yeah, very head stash.
They're great. Like,
very craft.
We get back to this craft thing, you know. Yeah, craft beers, short runs, really
If you look online, you look on...
It'd be so good to put you guys out of business with your terms.
I've got.
No, I think your products have got a future, mate. And that's kind of why I think was invited you into the place. We got so much interest in it online. I think that's what we covered, wasn't it? That's
we spoke
the mood
about
enhancer bits.
We've spoken about these length, but just an FYI. Steve's from Cannahealth.co.za, and these are the terp guys. We've had them a few times, so we're not going to go into deep detail with it, but we keep hearing good things about it.
Yeah.
There's definitely an appetite for it. So, yeah, we're going to talk about these a little bit as we go. But just quickly, while we're still on the dad thing, Dan, can you tell us a little bit more about rosin specifically? Because you've brought pamphlets around here of oaks with
actually, I found
those dudes.
What is rosin? What are the temperatures we're dealing with here? What are the yields?
So rosin is the most basic and prehistoric method of pushing out dabs.
Okay.
It's literally, you could heat two stones and push them together and you get dabs. It's that simple. It's literally creating pressure, which creates heat inadvertently, and then that will then push out your THC, CBD out of the plant matter because the pressure obviously won't allow liquid want to go out.
Yeah.
So it'll pull out your dabs.
Like the George Foreman
No, well, it's not
press.
really,
It's like the
kind of.
it drops
But you got to
down,
use a lot of pressure, so it's like
drops the
5
fat
ton.
down into
Or
the.
you see, there's these basic ones. You can take your hair straightener, take your wife's hair straightener, your girlfriend's hair straightener, take some parchment paper, take a bud the size of your thumb. You know, this works with every kind of anything. What you put in is what you put out, I think. You know what I mean? If you, I would assume, I mean, look, I haven't brand rosin, because my girlfriend doesn't use a hair straightener, so I haven't had the opportunity.
Yeah, this is the IO of girlfriends everywhere. They are GHDs.
Yeah, they're going to hate you.
You try finding a t-shirt press on eBay in South Africa.
They've sold out.
They're sold out, dude.
But anyway, so if you put in something maybe like Swazi that's got low trichrome count, you're going to have a very low yield compared to something that's indoor grown or outdoor, even so, but as long as it's got a high trichromes. If it's covered in crystals and it's shiny, you're like, oh my gosh, and it's not shiny because it's powdery mildew, it's trichromes. Right. When you press something, you're going to have a resin that comes out, and that's rosin.
Yeah. So it's pure pressure.
Pressure.
Yeah,
so
you can squeeze.
You can stand on the hair straightener. But now what they're doing is they're taking presses. So they're taking hydraulic presses that are either connected to hydraulics or hand presses that can do 5, 10, 20 tons of pressure that they press between two plates.
And it just
oozes. There we go. Here it is. Water.
The water.
You're just about to get some free
Mr.
repping right to Mr. Water.
Oak send us some free shit. If
we'll tell him we've got to get a gram of rosin for the next gig, dudes.
And even maybe a press, the small press or the big press, just to like display here for one of our episodes.
And who is this? What we dealing with?
So they're called Warthog Rosin Tech. It's a company in South Africa, made in South Africa, that makes presses. It's a 12-ton rosin press. 12 tons. Yeah, solventless extraction. So this is a solventless tech. It's just like ice hash or what else would they be? Dry sift.
Yeah.
And what is your typical yield from a kilo or a ton of the stuff?
Not much.
Not much, huh?
Well,
less than anything else.
On rosin.
On rosin, it's the most decadent way of getting the stuff out because you won't get all of it out, and you're squashing the stick with all of its plant oils in it that are specifically, if this is for recreational use, you are putting a hell of a lot of plant matter in there as well as the psychoactivity. I've tried some. I'm not that convinced because of the taste of it. It always tastes a little bit sort of burnt. It's like, if BHO is a WAV file, that is an MP3. It's like been clipped a little bit of the good stuff. That's the way I describe it. It's got a future for sure.
Yeah.
You know what it does is it doesn't have any restriction. So when it presses everything. You get your plant waxes, your lipids, your chlorophyll.
That's when you're
getting everything. So sometimes when you press on rosin, you'll get purple dabs, or you get purple rosin or red rosin. Because if you've got red buds or purple haze or whatever it is, it's going to push out the color pigment with it as well, because it's going to be very prominent. So
and some people are going to lose their mind for that.
Yeah, and it's all matter of preference, because if you don't want to use solvents, you would use something like that.
Jules, you got a very nice toy there.
Yeah, going on from this, when you do press all the plant with all of the good stuff, it would be a good idea if you had the equipment to get rid of all of those waxes and oils
there we go.
And stuff. And for those of you that don't know, there is a process called winterization, and I figure the Americans call it winterization because it gets really, really cold. Because you basically, you would have a flask of BHO dissolved in ethanol, really, really nice ethanol. And in that BHO are all the lipids and all the waxes and all of the...
it's frozen overnight, remember?
It's been winterized. You've put this into -20 or so for a couple of days even.
Yes.
Fully sealed
just
in one of these.
Yeah.
So what you do next is you find yourself a Buchner flask, which is a flask, it's a funnel that's got a whole bunch of holes in it with a filter. And because this stuff now is in the freezer and it's so dense, it looks like there's a brain on the inside of it, and that is actually all the plant waxes that are formed together at -20. You drop the lot in here, but because it's so dense, you actually put a vacuum pump on here and suck that lot through down into there. And that is the first part of the winterizing process. Eventually you would clean all the alcohol out of that and lay it a millimetre thick in an oven and watch it all go completely golden and like honeycomb, like the bud porn on Instagram that you see. and maybe you could find somebody that would pay upwards of $800 a gram for it because it's really special.
Did you see that happening when you were over there in Canada and stuff?
Not so much in Canada, but the story I have about winterizing is at Spanibus in 2014 in Barcelona, all the Americans were offering dabs. And I would take a dab, you help yourself, and I'd take a dab that I normally take and it would wipe me out. I had to go sit down every time.
Because you weren't having all the fats and waxes.
You lose 25% of your yield. So people don't do it because it's prohibition out there. And people need, it's not unscrupulousness, it's a pain in the arse to winterize. But if you want a completely clean product, the other thing is, to the uninitiated and people who don't really, are not used to it, it can completely fuck you up for a while.
Oh, man.
Its shatter even made me a bit paranoid at times. It does. It claps you. Your blood sugar goes down. It's high 90s% THC.
Wow.
And great for Christmas.
Oh yeah. If I can just be very clear on you, when Jules was speaking about a vacuum on that thing, we're not talking about your mom's Electrolux.
Or vacuum cleaner or any other.
No, you've got to suck, not blow, okay? Very important.
Very important.
Before we get into the news of the week, we're going to touch on some interesting and international things briefly. We've got some things to show off from our friends over at Abyss Inc. Much love,
Abyss.
Christmas themed. Steve, will you open us up and let's have a look what's inside, eh?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wait.
Just going back to rosin a minute, Martin Latham. Check out the T-Rex rosin press.
T-Rex rosin press, let's check that out.
No, that.
Oh, that one.
Dope for the casual user.
There we go.
There you go. We agree.
When we
It's
say
a starter
exactly,
kit.
it's safe.
It's safe. It really is safe unless you crush a hand in it because
Yeah.
it's so stoned you don't feel
Or
the
you're
pain.
using a hair straightener and you happen to put your hand in it, then, well,
That thing cooks you quickly, eh? Straight
you'll learn the first time. Hope you don't do it again.
And let's see what's in that thing. Oh, it's a tricky.
We're drinking one again, man.
So this.
Oh, wow.
These are. Wow.
Edibles.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Look at this.
Munchies.
Yeah,
Let's lay these things out.
Oh, that looks so cool, isn't it?
Wow.
Look at that. What are they?
Yeah.
They are. Oh no, these are from the Pretoria.
Canada
crew.
Kitchen.
The Cannahealth Kitchen in Pretoria.
Okay.
And
awesome.
the way that they
Look,
roll
cookies.
is they actually put the dosage on the packs. So you know.
Like Christmas cookies.
Nice.
Yeah. So they always have these really alarming things on, like on the box. Like read that. What does that say, Steve? There?
It says, warning, cannabis will help expand your mind.
It's a new one.
They always come out with bits like that, and they really go the extra mile in.
More.
My problem with it is
It's a lot of cookies.
these are just not going to be legislated because they look like something kids would dig, and this is what California is dealing with. I
They had to make childproof
Colorado.
cannabis.
So you
Childproof
got to make them
packaging.
look like dog shit and put them in foil or whatever. You can't make them look like these.
Well, the other day I actually
But
had
they're
some.
amazing, aren't they?
They're beautiful.
I had some cookies
Oh, look
left
at
over
this.
and I went home and
Yeah.
they were on the
Chocolate
counter
chip.
and I actually turned around and
Seems.
I was like, geez, I actually have to eat these right now.
And you ate them.
Well, I had to because if my kid walked past and decided to eat it, I'd be in trouble. So
Oh, it's so insane.
my wife would
The
have got
joys
my
of
head off.
parenting.
So I was like, well, if I have to eat the whole thing, I have to. You know, safety first.
And were you like that scene
Yeah,
in the
wow.
movies where
Can't
guys
do
are
kitchen.
about to get buzzed and then they quickly stuff all the drugs in their mouth and you're doing that and the kid was approaching you, you're like, "Arr, arr, arr, arr."
No, it went down very smoothly. And then
I'm
it
sure
was
it did.
good. In fact, why don't we try one of these?
Yeah, be my guest. I'm not an edible guy.
I'm
I
an
always,
edible
if
guy.
my golden
Let's
rule
see.
with an edible was
Always
always
What
do
does it say?
half.
What does it say? It says, heads up from the chef. It's always best to keep this medical in its original packaging and beyond the reach of children, animals, and uninformed. For the uninitiated, it is about patience. Enjoy one at a time. Expect a wait of anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours for the medical to take effect. Everybody's different. And last but not least, greenies are real. Lay off the booze and chemical party flavors. Enjoy.
That's really good advice.
That's
Most
really
of the
good.
cap that starts with weed has a mixture of booze and something else in it.
Once
really,
you mix
really
and you're not
smells
experienced
great,
on it,
But
you
same
are
with
done.
that. Totally. I've watched people
Cheers, man.
drop.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, let's time this, guys. Okay, 20 minutes. They should be pretty broken
be
up.
easy.
The last 10 minutes of the show, these guys
Let's see
should
if
be.
you fuckers make it.
Oh, dude.
So, news of the week, weekly news, maybe we'll start calling that in the future. First topic, this was a very insightful article that came out. I'll be frank, High Times has been quite cut over the last few years. We all grew up with memories of High Times, the magazine, but online, The articles have been pretty mediocre. It's been a lot of product placement, but they recently got bought out, I think, by Snoop. But what was
Marley, wasn't it?
Marley?
Was it Damien Marley and Co?
Marley, maybe.
I think it was, yeah.
So there was a very insightful article, and basically it's to deal with conflict metals in the Congo. So we're all aware of the concept of a blood diamond.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just apply to diamonds. It's copper, it's all kinds of resources throughout Africa, especially in Congo. And this article was titled, Good News, Congo is ditching conflict metals for cannabis. And this was written by a dude called Chris Roberts. And basically what he's saying is that a lot of guys now in the Congo are saying, fuck this shit. I'm done with all this being a slave sort of situation. I'm just going to go home, grow some fucking weed and sell it.
Yeah.
And the statistics they're claiming is that for an oak who's growing basically 2 tons of Congo weed, I don't know what that grade is. I imagine it's sativa to the max though. He's earning about $1,000. So for every 2 tons of weed he grows, he gets about 15 grand, which I imagine is a lot.
Is it legal in Congo?
Yeah, for them there, but that's the scale of economies of always.
Yeah.
But it's
And
legal
the Congo's the centre of the universe. It's not Congolese weed, it's just Southern African tropical weed, because it doesn't know that it's in Zambia or the DRC or Malawi.
So
maybe a few different soil
What would be around the other
conditions.
side? It's around Thailand or something around there? Or
Yeah, exactly.
so you'd probably find the same kind of
subtropical stuff, Costa Rica, Guatemala,
That's
through
it. And it's sativa?
tropical weed.
Yeah.
All sativas, all massive
and you'll
plants.
find it right through that whole band.
Yeah, dig it.
Plants for days, eh? But it's interesting that there's now this migration away from this traditional sort of only way to survive, that it's now providing an economy to these
It's the
guys.
only economy. It's pretty much the only economy here, really. Everyone's just peddling weed to get by. Nobody's getting rich. They're just getting to bread and milk stage. Sell a bit of weed.
I think people are starting to wake up and realize that they can do things for themselves.
Yeah.
When they see everyone else that is making a bit of money from selling peanuts on the corner, and they're actually the slave, and they say, geez, well, I can do a little bit more, and I can then make that a little bit more. So they all take that chance, or at least it's becoming more open, I think.
It's about survival.
The more affordable data becomes in this country, the more you will get that. And that is the reason why data is so expensive. To keep people on peanut scale. They can't expand because they haven't got the tools that everyone else has.
Exactly. They don't have the freedom and access that we have on our phones.
Correct.
Our laptops that we carry around, our supercomputers that we walk around with every single day.
Totally, yeah.
You know?
It never ceases to amaze me, actually, because I remember life distinctly without any of it. We used to leave the house every day and not even think about phone.
Well, you would use the phone, you'd say, I'll see you in about 6-7 hours or whatever it is. And then you'd rock up there.
I remember one of those. If that person's even home to answer the fucking phone.
There it is.
And you just
there's
keep
my
going.
original phone off the jazz farm.
Do you remember having
That's it. That's the original one.
Hello.
Is it a Gupta?
Yeah,
no,
it
it's
definitely
been-
sounds like it.
it's been
He's
captured.
still holding on to those bloody contracts.
It's been captured.
So if I can, it's great that you bring up phones, because he mentioned this in the article that when we use our devices, we need to accept a little bit of the blood that's on our hands, because the resources and the raw materials that go into this are seldomly untainted.
Very interesting.
But also, if we think about that same logic, if we think about ourselves as cannabis consumers, it's lacking in life, we all know oak now, so it's a small circle. But at some point, we have probably bought weed that's left blood on someone's hands, because that's the world it lives in.
You know, maybe somewhere else more than here. I don't know about here so much, but you know, you get all those stories in the UK about the Vietnamese kids shipped in and locked in a bed sit in Wolverhampton somewhere.
it's more the old
they never
Gorbal
see the
that
white
grows
light of
roses.
day, and all they do is trim weed.
Yeah.
That's out there. That there's a scale of economics that would allow you to do that. That's mob. But yes, that's all part of
But it's
the
great
harms
that
of
you bring that
prohibition.
up.
I was in England, I smoked that weed, I smoked that skunk, I smoked that chemically coated skunk, which came out white sometimes. You think, what the hell is going on here? But it was just covered in, basically, all that they were doing, foliar feeding as much potassium into it so they could push those buds to get them as hard as they
what it
possibly
is?
could. So
Potassium.
it was white. It was leftover salts, and you don't really realize because they would try and wash it off of some kind. Or there was some reports of glass, but yes, that was it is. It was
So, even if you did that and then flushed the plant for 2 weeks or whatever it is before you clipped it, would that?
yeah, but if you
Is it still
if you do it in a controlled manner and you do a foliar feed of something when it's lacking something, it would definitely help because you're giving it to the plant and it's able to absorb it through the leaves.
But this is
you wouldn't want to do it in your buds.
This is manipulation to get a better price for it.
Well,
this is prohibition again.
They were locked into a house and they had to make sure that every plant gave it the most weight they could. I've read those articles about those kids that sleep literally in the passageway.
Yeah.
And they're locked in there for months.
8,000 k's from home.
Yeah.
Wow.
They don't even go out.
Electricity running past them, live cables running past
Yeah.
them, air ducts this way, flipping.
There's some of them in jail, in UK jails. They don't even, they're learning to speak English
Simply
in
because
jail.
they get arrested for being inside the building and they put
they-
away.
Wow.
Because they're there. And
They haven't even got a passport. That's been taken from them, so they can't run.
Yeah,
It's
but
quite
that's
a-
the deal. They've got to put in their 10 years before they maybe get their passport.
Something like
But
it.
also, I think the secret ingredient there with those UK grows is the tears of those Vietnamese kids.
Of course, and that's not all of them. Let's not for all the UK watchers and
Yeah,
viewers. We do have UK viewers. I'm pretty sure.
I hope so, yeah. He's in...
Not all of them.
Tell us.
Not all of them. There must be some guys that are growing some really good European English grown cannabis. Seeing as Birmingham put out cheese. That's where cheese comes from. Birmingham. Birmingham was the first.
The original
Was
cut.
the original cut that the guy found of the skunk, and he turned it cheese. So yeah.
So, before we get on to our next topic, I'm going to leave at the same point this guy made in this article in Hard Times, because it was such a good point. He was saying, it's wonderful that this is happening, but how long will it be till corporate or the armed militants who are controlling resources move in on this territory now? So it might only be a short-lived thing, which is sad, because as soon as it becomes any sort of real industry, it's going to be muscle.
It's either going to be muscled or it'll be out of control, and already it's unpoliceable. It is it really is quite a rural environment that this is all happening in. The article is pretty well researched.
It was
I
well
mean, you're
written.
talking about, we're talking about landrace genetics here, but there are foreign interests already in the mix there. There are European genetics coming in all the time.
The Dutch
Because-
influence, dude.
Yeah, all those influences, all those Northern European dudes with 50,000 seeds, here you go.
I think it's because we didn't have the education. The people that were growing the Great DP and the Swazi and the Roybart and the Malawi,
Yeah, they were just growing.
They didn't understand that if they kept the genetics safe,
Wow.
what we could have now, if they preserved them, because remember, they must have had tens of thousands of seeds. If they kept one bag of each strain of 10,000 seeds, what we could do with that this day.
Now, yeah.
But who would have thought?
Well, this is it.
Who would
They
have
didn't,
thought?
nobody really knew. They just fed them to the cattle.
So
or
everyone
hide them
that's
in
also watching again, go and look in your grandfather's cupboard and ask
Well,
him for his
freezer,
order.
hopefully.
Yeah, find a seed.
Asking for his pips. Guys, our next subject of the week. This for me was, excuse my language, fucking hilarious. So, I feel like I've read this story before, but maybe they just like to repeat it locally. So, let's have a look here. So, there's this little newspaper. It's the North Coast Courier online, and there's a story there, headline, School Pupils Using Zambak to Hide Dagga.
I've seen this.
So,
Zambak, that's obviously some smelling, yeah.
You know Zambak?
Yeah, the white thing, yeah.
And before we get into it, I'm just going to quote out of this article. So
Are you?
basically,
Yeah, no, quote it. Go
I've
on.
got to quote this. So basically, they're saying there's a big pandemic of children in this area, in this rural-ish area, getting fucking high in class on this mixture of Zambak and weed. But we're going to get to that. But this quote is, and this is the colonel or the captain or whatever of the local cop shop. We found out that children smoke Dagga before going to school. Fair enough. And put Dagga seeds in Zambak. When they apply Zambak on their mouth, the seeds keep them high for a long time.
That's a lot of crap.
Teachers only see a child who is
God.
taking care of his or her
Really?
mouth, not knowing that he is actually consuming Dagga. But it gets even better because we get a Dagga by the chow next.
Oh my god.
You haven't heard this, no.
No, I've never
He also said some will take normal curry, Oaks.
curry.
Curry, bruh. Especially one made with herbs. And due to the colour of the herbs, it is very difficult to see that it had been mixed with Dagga.
Like coriander, what?
So kids are getting fucked up at school at Dagga pips in Zambak.
And then they're at home, they're coining in their food before they chow. But they're getting
all the fatty acids that they didn't know they were getting. Yeah.
This makes no sense.
But
The
you
seed
know
must
what?
have quite a bit of power in them. Hey, I mean,
It
you get
just-
high from the seed.
Can you imagine
Oh
what
my gosh.
everyone says behind the cop's back? They must know that the cup is completely full of shit. It's the most ludicrous thing I ever heard.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
It really is disinformation. It's not even fake news. This is the truth. Huh?
This is the truth.
This is happening right now.
It's like KwaZulu-Natal or somewhere.
Yeah, like it's all. I'm sure it's township or very rural or something. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Kasi vibes, I'm sure.
But I mean, surely, education is that important then, because there's so many guys that have no cooking clue what is going on, and they're making up all these ideas and thinking of things, but that is so far from the truth. It's actually scary. So of course, education and making people aware of actually the benefits associated to the things that we have here, that is organic, that is natural, that is a plant, for goodness sake. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Seeds. And the realities of it, it's not this crazy thing that you get high from the seeds.
Tony's Soup Kitchen down in Cape Town.
Yes.
They're dishing out seeds to put like tablespoons on people's food.
Hemp seed.
Crushed hemp seeds, hemp
you
hearts.
All of your oils.
You get everything.
There.
So the cup's saying, stay away, it gets you stoned. And people in the know say, eat a bucket load. Eat loads.
Go for seconds if you can. Ask for 2 scoops.
Keep all the seeds. Put them in a jar.
I put hemp seed in my Nutribullet.
Wait till the cups arrive. They took 80 grams.
It's crushed.
We took hemp seed.
And I bought it from the store. It's
jar
packaging.
But now even that is legal, right? Because the new regulation says that CBD is indeed, or for anything else in medicinal purposes, is a Schedule 7. So
there's 4 this week. 6.
No,
it's up and down.
No, it's a little bit down. I think it's like
7.
Like stock market.
4.8.
It's still like fucking morphine.
Yeah, no, it is. It's still very, very bad drug. 2 signatures, cage, padlock, CBD. Yeah. Tony's doing a number. All of Tony's shit on his shelves now, completely illegal per se.
Precisely.
And it's to do. I'm sure it's to do with tariffs and shit.
But I mean, look, you're going to go to Clicks and buy right now some hemp seeds, right? I mean, you can buy them right there. With the new law, if it's illegal because I mean, there's a trace amount of CBD inside there, right? And which makes it illegal.
Gotta show this thing off. No, that's so small.
I'm going to say the biggest lighter with the smallest flare.
It must drive a big car.
It'll go forever though, don't you?
You see, it's got a light on the bottom so you can find your lighter. Yeah, where the hell's my lighter now? Where the fuck is that lighter?
So
I had that lighter a moment ago.
I don't know where the lighter is.
So now you see yourself with the light as well.
So guys, just to be very clear, in case anyone has misunderstood this whole joke, seeds will not get you high.
No.
On no way, shape, or form. But
you'll do more good for your health by taking, by eating them, or don't even smoke them. That makes you sterile. Apparently, I don't know if there's been tests being done.
Smoking seeds.
Well, they always said when I was young. No. When you've got to clean the seeds out, just because you're going to get sterile. I was saying. When you're young, you believe anything.
No, just because they taste cuck and they put holes in your t-shirt. That's all.
Yeah, dude, holes in shirts.
Yes.
Always cuck explaining that to your mom, man. That was just a smoke, mom.
With the hash, mom.
No, my friend's angle grinder.
The pip's part of the Zambach
Jules knows.
Fox. But yeah, it is a joke, and maybe I mustn't make fun of it because maybe this cop's circumstances dictate that she hasn't had this degree of exposure. But it is shocking that...
Is it a lady?
Is it dude? Maybe dude. Sorry, I think it's a dude.
I'm not sure.
Not sure.
Just the fact that it is happening needs sorting out. But it got blasted around Twitter, and they got tagged and said, "Are you kidding me? You've got to sort yourselves out because they just lose all credibility."
Oh,
and when we've had time and again, if you tell people that crack's really hectic, they won't believe you because that wasn't.
Yeah.
But I also think. Who's the puss who's selling the pips to the kids?
Yeah.
And how much is he charging them?
Yeah.
$5 a bank your pips.
Would you count them out?
Yeah.
Like around each or what?
Yes.
With people sitting in the back. Oh, fuck, how many was that? 11 or... Hang on.
If that takes off here with all the chats, we're going to be just...
And maybe he's cutting them with coriander pips or some shit.
I never thought I'd see the day when people's trim is now $50 a kilo.
Jeez.
$50 a gram. What am I talking about?
A gram.
For the right trim, but I've seen trim usually $20, $30 if it's like indoor trim, maybe a little more.
It's going down there. It
depends on season, all those things. But there is a market for trim now.
Yes, because we wouldn't have these lovely things without it.
Because that's where it's all
these guys, these warthog dudes.
Yeah, no, they need all your trim.
They want your trim.
Yeah, no, they want your trim.
Take your trim. Remember, don't throw it away.
Yeah, top dollar. Yeah.
Because then you're getting the whole plant extraction, right? Because you're putting the whole plant inside.
Yeah, that's whole plant, exactly.
And the benefits associated.
You're getting $30 off a warthog for your trim. That sounds outrageous. What's this, by the way?
I think that was
that one that's really tasty, very, very tasty, actually.
I think we were, yes, just now. We took one of these terpenes and we put a drop inside some of this Skywalker.
And how much did you use?
It was
because there's a balance.
I remember there was a bit inside here, and I just took a drop of it and I just dropped it in, and because it was very bland.
And this is what you dropped in. Is this?
Well, no. It was which one? No, it's
no. Okay.
There's a whole bunch.
There's a whole bunch there. I thought, what was it? It was baby blue cheese that I dropped into there.
Aha.
So we put one drop into it, and because the terpene is obviously a solvent as well. This was a waxy. It was quite a bit waxy when I remember when I saw it.
So is it breaking it down again into?
Well, it's like putting some kind of solvent into it.
Yeah.
Terpene's a solvent. So now
terpene is.
If you ever look at it,
why are they a solvent, Steve?
So terpenes are really actually a hydrocarbon. So in other words, they're made of hydrogen and carbon, right? In its true essence form. And very interestingly, there are about 20,000 different terpenes in the world, and they stem from all different kinds of plant materials, as fruits and vegetables, etc. And what's really interesting is that in cannabis you'll find about 200 of those terpenes that are found in cannabis out of those 20,000.
How many?
200 odd.
Yeah. I had no idea that many in the plant kingdom. Okay.
Yeah, plenty. So inside, where will you find these typically on a cannabis plant? Well, you'll find them typically in the trichomes. So in the secretory cells, that's where you'll find those terpenes, and they of course increase production due to having a lot of additional light or a lot of light. That will increase their production. But what is really interesting is that these terpenes that are coming from the plant world, which of course cannabis is part of that, right? It really assists. The main reason why terpene is created is because within the plants is either to attract insects, etc., to be able to further reproduction, right? Or either to really ensure that those specific insects don't attack the plant. So it's a protective mechanism as well as a mechanism for increased production. So it really is a necessity.
It's the plant's perfume.
In its true essence.
It does the opposite to us.
Well,
it's blue cheese, you want a gram of that.
Correct. The terpenes are so essential, such strong essential oils that they're toxic to certain things. So that's why they use them as...
I see what you mean. Now that I know that is in that,
correct.
You could put that in 10 times now, even more.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, exactly. You can take this and like it says on the thing, it says here, it's in 1 gram of concentrate requires 50 to 200 microliters, which is equivalent to 1 to 4 drops of terpene.
Yeah.
So you can take... Essentially what it's saying is you could take something that's very basic, something that might not have much flavor, or you might have messed it up, and you could add it in.
So let me get this straight.
But you've got to be real about it. I mean, you can't go and start trying to flaunt yourself as like, oh, I've got some Durban poison extraction. That's, it'd be unethical, essentially.
What's the main motivation for adding it to something apart from taste? Was it because it all sounds from prohibition? It just sounds like a bit of subterfuge here.
There's so much.
Check out this blue cheese.
There's so much research being done around terpenes, which is really interesting, and why we really got involved in trying to make this aware, the public aware of what this really is, because there are various different kinds of terpenes, such as pinene, which come from the pine plant. You also get things like limonene, you get myrcene, etc., etc. And some of them have unique characteristics. For example, myrcene will create kind of a subdued or relaxed state if ingested. Exactly, right.
Pushed out,
and limonene will create a really more of an uplifting feeling within yourself. So it's very interesting that the terpenes is responsible for how you feel. So in the cannabis strain itself, it's not the THC, it's not the psychoactives that will actually change your mood or how you feel. It is indeed the terpenes that are responsible for that.
Okay.
And so in other words,
comes in and out,
if you have an indica or a sativa, well, that is due to the fact of the terpenes that are present. That's what either makes you subdued or gives you a very interesting, nice high and upliftment, or allow you to concentrate, or whatever the case may be. But the interesting thing about terpenes within cannabis is that because there are so many different varieties or amounts of different terpenes in the cannabis plant, 200, as I said earlier before, there's a different composition of these inside every single plant. And so by understanding through either doing GC work or even using an HPLC on a cannabis plant, you're able... Correct, right? Yeah. You'll be able to determine exactly what terpenes are in that particular strain and in what concentration, so you can recreate that. Because you can imagine if you're taking terpenes that are extracted from cannabis, it's going to be very expensive. But those exact same terpenes are available in nature through, for example, limonene comes from lemon, which is prevalent also in cannabis. So you can then use those different combinations of those specific terpenes to recreate the terpene from that particular strain.
And can you get blue cheese from anything other than weed?
Well,
that profile.
So that profile, you'll see each one of the bottles that we have here, and
we discussed that. But is that, can all of that be found elsewhere?
Yes.
And added like
that's
from plants around the world that have those different terpenes within them.
That's what
as exact as that.
Exactly. So in other words, from the lemon you'll take limonene, from the pine pod you'll take pinene, and based on the profile or the composition of that particular strain of those terpenes, you will take then those and add them to make that.
So at this point, again, all my life prohibition, that is worth a hell of a lot more than weed.
Yes.
You should be growing weed for this.
Yeah.
And the other bit, just give to the dude for the CO2 extraction. He doesn't need this bit anyway.
That there's essential oils.
Yeah.
On the next level.
Right. On the next level.
No,
we've not taken
weed.
The whole homeopathy side, and almost you've taken that and created profiles of all those homeopathy applications and made them into something that. But we're still finding out. They're still finding out
what's so exciting
what does
about
Durban poison terpene mixture of that combination of those exact terpenes that are found in nature, essential oils, essential.
Are any of them?
What the effect is on
Are any of them from weed?
None of these.
None of these would be big, just because of the expense. You are ever recreating that exact same thing.
So do you remember years ago there was a company called Pan's Inc?
Same thing.
It's the same thing as Pan's Inc, but Pan's Inc all those years ago. Do you remember a company called Pan's Inc? The Durban crew brought some in, and when he smelt it, it was almost like toilet air freshener.
Yeah.
There was something really artificial about it. But this, these,
but it's in its most concentrated form. That's why it's so strong. It's like if I can explain terps, I'm going to give you my buzz rundown here. My understanding of terps is that they're an essential oil flavor profile that modulates your interaction with cannabis, such as THC and CBD. Yeah. So it interacts with that interaction to highlight and emphasize certain things. But also when it comes to using it, this is OROS rules. When you make your OROS, you don't pour the whole fucking thing full of OROS and drink it like that. It's the same rule with terps. They're very concentrated. So if you use them like a drop on even a bud or on a small bud, it can almost be misdiminished in flavor profile. So it's one of those things that a little goes a long way.
Also very interesting is that from a cannabis perspective, the cannabinoids, THC, CBD, etc., interact with the same receptors as what terpenes do.
Yeah.
So it interacts with those receptors, especially one particular terpene, which is beta-caryophyllene, and that interacts with the CB2 receptor directly. So not only can you use terpenes to enhance the flavor of your particular strain that you'd like to have, but it can also be used in terms of a medicinal perspective because they each have certain impact within the body from a medicinal perspective, either for anti-inflammatory or for depression, etc. And different terpenes work for different scenarios within the body. Yeah. So indeed, when it reacts with the CB2 receptor, is indeed it reacts with the same thing as what your cannabinoids would directly, which really creates that impact within the body. Cool.
Any questions there?
Well, there's just someone that came in here and asked. Let me go through the first one. It says, where can they purchase pure terpenes? Well,
from us,
Cannahealth.
Yeah, they do pretty good. These are quite impressive.
That whole range, like we said just now, the Revify range, all of the Revifies.
Do you remember these things? I think we covered these last month or the month before in the early days. I think we've had some of these on the show before.
Oh, yeah? And how much would a person pay?
So for these...
Can we unwrap one of these?
Please do. So we have two different varieties. One is the what we get from true terpenes. Now they're regarded to be one of the best in the world when talking about true terpenes.
Yeah, where in the world?
True terpenes in the States.
Yes, look at this packaging. It's amazing.
And what this does is this has got the strain-specific terpenes, with each with their individual flavors, etc. Then we have brought us something quite interesting, which we called mooters.
Yeah, okay.
So what we have done is that we have got 6 different kinds, and what this does, it can mimic exactly the mood that you would like to feel. So as I mentioned to you earlier, there are certain terpenes that will either make you very tired or make you a little bit more concentrated or uplifting. Well, we have chosen those terpenes that indeed can mimic that mood that you have. And this you can add to your cigarette, to your joint, or you can put it into a bong, or you can put it in your vape juice if you want to.
I've tried these, it's great.
And so we have quite a few called imagination, relief, concentration, calm, etc. So they really do mimic that exact feeling that you'd like. Whereas these will have the feeling of smoking that particular strain.
That's it,
Whereas this is more specific for that feeling.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a mixture of
precisely
feelings.
And
that's a
then
certain
one
specific
day, one day we'll be able to modify plants to make just that.
Yeah, indeed.
I would imagine.
Indeed.
You will be able to manipulate the profile. Can I have a bottle of mood, please? How do you feel?
Precisely.
Suicidal. Here, take two.
And just quickly, before we get on to our next topic, price-wise and where can we find out more?
So we're actually in two companies. I have my partner, Dean Milan, who's in Cape Town. So Dean, heads up the operation there. Hi, Dean. How you doing?
Yeah,
Dean.
And then I'm in Johannesburg. And we have Cannahealth, which really looks at the CBD, the water-soluble CBD products that we have, and the lotions, etc., as well as a CBD vape, a pure CBD vape, by the way.
Is that this thing?
That's that thing indeed, yes.
Yeah, no, this thing. Whoa.
So
that's legal.
Well, no, it's scheduled.
Well, CBD now, the scheduling has changed a little bit.
It's now, they control that shit because it's mind altering, because it's weed, because all parts of the plant and the seeds and everything else, because the law hasn't changed yet.
When did it change again?
Literally
must have changed.
Last week,
weeks ago.
Yeah,
we saw you last 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, just come out.
Yeah.
Version 2 came out and it's gone signed, and it's a schedule 6, I think.
It's heavy.
So this particular vape cartridge that we have is pure CBD. In other words, there's no VG, no PG in it. In other words, there's no carrier. It's pure CBD, about 300 milligrams. So,
have a taste. Can I open it?
Please do.
You have to have a pen to put it on though.
Yeah, I've got a pen.
Oh, cool.
Fantastic.
Just someone, so they're saying here, there's someone that says terp sauce. Such as terp sauce. You're not going to get that here.
Not yet.
You're not going to get that here. Not a chance. Not right now.
So we have another organisation which we call Natural Terpenes. So the guys want to find out more information about terpenes, what they are, what the products we have. Please go to our Facebook page, which is Natural Terpenes, and they can find all the information there.
Natural terpenes.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool.
Excellent.
Guys, while you're busy with that, Dan, I'm going to need your hand on this. Because we're on the topic, I'm going to pull out my favourite BHO toy.
I like that a lot.
Will you give me a hand unboxing this thing? Because you know this thing fluently. Guys, so if you're in that situation where you want to maybe make a little dab at home, or maybe make a lot, it's one of those things that it's worth getting the right toy from the start. And I've been supporting these oaks a while now locally. I'm a dab.co.za. And they make some damn fine, damn simple, straightforward, but reliable extraction gear. It is beginner, it is entry level, but I don't know, I've been having a really good response. Every time someone's gone home with one of these, they've smiled, lang hard. So what we got?
I reckon this, for me, this is now the underground industry standard.
Yeah.
For its affordability, its packability, its serviceability, its durability. They rock and roll, and they're great. They're great for the home alchemist.
Yeah. I just like stainless steel.
And they're pretty much plug and play. If you'd like length details on how to use this, check out the Hypo. We've got an article about that. But right now, let's look at this.
It's sweet. But how does it? 100% organic hemp oil.
Indeed.
Thrive is the first creation by Vape Bright designed to amplify your brightness.
That's delicious.
Vape Bright, amplify your brightness.
Very nice.
100% pure CBD hemp oil. So this is now not making biofuel and socks. This is extracting Christ knows what per 200 mics of...
So this is from? This
is via...
So the products from Cannahealth are the bio-CBD range of water-soluble capsules, as well as the vape, which we all get from the States.
So then this must have then gone through a...
CO2 extraction process.
Then must have gone further post-pressing to like a fractional of some kind. To be able to isolate the CBD to put it into...
Complete, pure CBD,
But it does seem like hemp oil is a carrier, though, in a way. Because it's not like it's like CBD crystallate. To be that viscosity.
No, you still get it at that. You'll still get it to a viscosity, but there must be some kind of carrier here, or maybe not.
I rate it simple, and I'm sure there's
100% pure.
200 milligrams isn't much. We're used to doing. There's a gram. That's a fifth of one of these. So it's a very small chamber, and it's precious. But it just goes to show what has happened to everyone's thoughts about hemp. It's all over the place. It's not like hemp's going to make you some really organic clothes anymore. Hemp's going to be packaged into a very ostentatious box like this with a vial of it of really precious muti.
Yeah.
Well,
Indeed. Yeah.
you know what? When the Dagga couple first started their whole thing 7 years ago, nobody knew what it was. And now all of a sudden everybody kind of knows what everything is about it, but they don't even know what THC is about.
Yeah.
So how they know all about this all of a sudden? It's crazy what that is not going to put me in jail, but that one is. Because this one changes my consciousness, but this only changes my mood.
That CBD will indeed is from a health benefit perspective. So in a really mood perspective, even though it's a whole plant extraction, there will be some terpenes inside there, but the CBD is of course for medicinal purposes.
Yes, it is, but now it's Schedule 4, so it's now illegal to even change your mood. This changes my consciousness and I'm fucked. I go down, you go to jail, you go straight to jail for this one. But now here they've gone to control this. Because this is on Tony Budden's shelf as a hemp oils and carriers. Not the vape pen. I don't think he does anything like. I don't think he does smoking stuff. Does Tony do? No, I don't think he does anything like that. He just does the clothing and the plant and the nutrition about it.
So these are normally used for respiratory issues, or those people who have respiratory issues, where you can actually vape the CBD, that it has really entered the bloodstream extremely fast. So it's really effective from that perspective.
Okay.
So, very quickly, guys, I'm a dab. Really, we love it. Check out the Hyco for a full detail on how to use it. But basically, what you do, Pyrex bowl at the bottom, glass is your friend.
Fan.
Gas
outdoors.
Fan.
Weed. And gas. Equals
gas.
dab.
Yeah, and
but
the gold
be very
stuff
careful.
comes out.
Please be very careful.
Highly flammable exercise.
And all of this stuff here, from here, as soon as it leaves here, it goes down here. And that's very important. All the action is at the bottom, not at the top.
Meaning
So
gas
really,
is heavier than air.
Get a fan on the bottom and get it swept out. You shouldn't be doing it in the
Do not do it indoors. Outdoors.
You've got to do it in a lapo and cuckoo or somewhere. Some lock up with loads of space. But it's not an indoor sport.
No, not
and
at
it
all.
gives all the other guys a bad name. Because the tabloid remembers the one where the roof lifted off the house.
Essentially, if you're doing... Yeah, just be very careful.
Yeah.
Very careful.
Yeah, no, it's just common sense, guys. It really is. And don't do it ripped. Don't do bongs and then go do it. Get serious about this.
Yeah.
And my friend said, if you write it down, at that point it becomes science. Because if you write it down every time and you have a record of everyone you did, you can figure it out for yourself what you did and didn't do to make this happen. And then you've got research.
This is the most basic starter kit of the thought of extracting. When you start doing for medicines, you cannot do it like this, unfortunately.
You know what? Before this guy came around, there's a lot of people with a 50mm PVC pipe.
Exactly, I know.
So where did the butane go then?
Okay.
Top. In the top.
Let me actually, we'll make the effort, but let's not go woof.
Yeah.
Okay, so the steps are
You put that joint out.
I'm not gonna. No, not gonna. So
Test run. This has all been done in the controlled environment.
safety first. So Pyrex bowl, you'd fill this with weed. I think this will take about 40 grams of herb.
80.
This 80.
About
big
80.
boy.
Yeah,
Okay.
80 of dry.
80 of dry. And it's got a little nozzle at the top. And essentially what you would do is a unit like this will use about 2 or 3 of these cans. But these are the cheaper because these are like 20, 30 bucks a pop. Use a good brand though.
Newport.
Use a brand that doesn't have any perfume in it.
Yes.
It's very important because most of them have a perfume, so you know you can smell butane around the house.
This one.
That one's perfume.
That's the one.
And you'll basically just gas. You'll push it down and it'll release all the gas, and it'll get pretty cold, so you want to watch out for condensation.
Yeah.
You have a towel. And after 2 or 3 cans, you'll be left with like a beer-like vibe at the bottom in your Pyrex bowl. Basically, oil will come fizzing out the tip.
Yeah.
And you'll see it'll fizz violently. And as the butane evaporates, it'll get more and more solid. But it's a long technical thing. But guys, if you want to begin, much love for I'm a dab, hey?
Yeah. And do your research.
And do they also supply the canisters, the butane canisters?
No, those are off the shelf. You get those everywhere
by
from
then,
Spar to
okay.
Pick and Pay.
All right.
They really are easy to get a hold of.
Where's that tablet? Yeah, put a piece of kitchen roll or something round here. Just it does condensate quite quickly.
Yeah.
It's a good sign because that's what you need. You need it to freeze out of there. And the other thing that I can think of is maybe you want to lift your Pyrex up so there's minimal distance between the end of the bottom of the pipe and the perceived surface of the end product,
Yeah,
so,
that's perceived.
Yeah,
surface.
perceived.
Make sure you think about how much it's going to pull up. It's going to lift up and it's going to...
Hypothetically.
Yeah.
So, just to decrease the surface area for splashes and stuff and condensation, etc.
How long does it take?
Oh, seconds.
Quick.
Minutes.
Quick,
Sometimes you can even lock it off, just take the pipe out, put a stopper on it and just leave it to finally drip itself out, because butane is very heavy. And then your workshop is out of bounds for a while you clear all of this heavy shit out. Keep the fans on. You haven't finished yet. It's people don't dig it because of that, but as a recreational user, I dig these kind of extractions because it makes tasty shit. It keeps it all intact. There's no brutal extraction technique here. It's all nice and frozen and gentle.
But if you don't want to get into the hectic side, if you think this is a bit intimidating, you don't want to be making your medicines from using lighter fluid and you know it's dangerous and you might just not want to do it, the simplest way is double boiling, mason jar, weed inside a jar, coconut oil just above it, boil it slowly under very low heat for maybe 6 hours, strain everything out, there you've got your cannabis butter, where you can then ingest as medicine, safe, no flames, no nothing, you can do it anywhere.
And in a strong form, in a really strong,
very
accessible
potent,
form, where you get a lot out of the plant.
You do a whole plant extract. You literally are. You're going to be boiling it for so long that you're going to pull everything from chlorophylls to fats, waxes, everything simply, and you'll see it'll go black. It might not go black, it'll go a bit darker, and that's the chlorophyll that you pull off of it. So
no, butter's a good place to be, but also it raises the question: do you think we're at the limit? Not necessarily in SA, but if you look at the States, Spain, and so on, do you think we're hitting the ceiling in what can be? Well, not here, but like overseas, we're seeing them hit the ceiling in terms of what can be done with cannabis. Is there a 22nd century to this?
What, like physics?
Whatever.
What's
after that?
There's still so
Quantum
much
push.
can happen.
Quantum push, you get stoned just by thinking about it.
I saw a thing on Facebook, it must be a few days ago, about this guy who's collecting live resin.
Yes.
Saw that?
Yes.
I thought that was quite interesting.
That's literally like the lane name says, live resin.
Live
It's
resin.
literally coming off a plant that's literally just been cut down
Yeah,
or
it's very
within
cool.
at least 48 hours maximum.
I
harvesting.
personally call that a live run. Then you'd only get about 40 grams in that pipe, and it's crazy sticky, and you might need a bit more butane because it's packed in there at that point of everything. It kind of looks like that, hypothetically.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's where the terpenes come in, because when you do that, you get the highest terpene profile on any kind of extraction.
Well, that's
You're
what I
doing
was
a live resin because the plants had no time for those terpenes to die off. They literally have come off the plant that had been in outdoors or indoors, wherever you decide to grow, that's controlled and
untouched by human hands,
untouched and
straight in the pipe, tamp it a little bit, flush it, and then put it on a heater just to lift all that butane out. Don't be in a hurry.
But you know, for so long, people have been taking or looking at plants that produce high amounts of THC. That's what it's about. Cannabis Winners was all about the prohibition, indeed. And now it's changed to more the flavor, the terpenes within inside of it. It's all changed to the flavor profile that you're getting from your green. And you'll see that a lot of the winners now is based on that profile, not because they've got high THC levels anymore.
I reckon because the judges just change all the cups all the time. So all of different fucking flavors. They're like, well, we don't like that flavor, we'll take that one. But there have been some solid breeders. Yeah.
It's like you bring up live. So in my mind, live extract isn't necessarily the strongest, because in terms of grammage, you're getting a lot of oils and that from the plant as well when it's fresh. But that then makes it the most decadent, because you look at it with bud as well, like you say. It gets to a point where they all got mega THC. What starts differentiating? We start looking for more in the bud, or maybe sometimes less. Maybe a little less THC. Maybe I don't want to get fucked up all day, every day.
Could any of these bring you back towards yourself, or the mood things?
So in other words, if you want to customize your smoking experience, I mean, if you've got an indica and you want to put some concentration, one of them is concentration, and you put two drops on that and let it dry for like a minute or so. You smoke that, it's going to give you an uplifting feeling. So you can customize your smoking experience.
But my question is, if I hit this dab and it gets too much for me, would there be one of these that would bring me towards myself? Or if there would actually, the CBD, hit that CBD, if you start getting anxious, if you start getting sweaty and it all goes green, this stuff can bring you right, yeah?
CBD does inhibit THC, yes.
So there's something for your armory.
Yeah.
If you got a vape pen, you might want the antidote to 2 stone.
Yeah.
We can help.
A lifeline. Fucking lifeline. That can be
We
bad.
used to think it was orange juice. What the hell else do we say? No, just drink vitamin C. That'll bring you towards it.
Have you ever? Sorry.
Carry on.
Have you ever read about? I mean, you should know mangoes and weed.
That's the original. Yeah, that's the original.
That's a
That's where it
terpene
started.
thing.
The reason why if you're smoking a joint or bong, whatever the case may be, and you're having mango, it's going to make your high higher because of the terpenes in the mango. It's the terpenes that are responsible for that higher.
And I'm sure there's some in there.
Damn straight.
Yeah, no, there will be, because there are a lot of them.
Well, what I'm trying to find here also is you're saying what brings you back to normality. Basically, what it is it's pepper. The pepper terpene, the pepper essential oil, if you take that in, it will bring you back down to normality because that essential oil it is something that basically corrects the receptor connections that you're having that you might be in too high. So pepper, black pepper.
Right.
Oh, so you're saying there's logic to that curry weed meal?
That's right. Yeah, that's what it is. The Indian, yeah. That could
So
be.
black
Because
pepper
we had,
will bring you back. And mangoes will make you go up. Eat some mangoes, raw mango, and drink raw mango juice before you smoke a joint or bong.
wait 2 hours, yeah.
Right up.
I'm waiting.
I was just about to go for another one.
Do they taste great, guys?
They really do taste
Yeah,
Guys, they
but
taste
keep
great.
them keep them out on the top shelf or something.
Top of the shelf.
Because they do look amazing.
So we're coming in for landing, guys. Would you rate yourself grilled yet off these things? I don't know.
I can't.
Between
Don't tell
everything.
yet.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's
I guess I just had a dab, so
but
my
it's
tolerance
not
has gone up.
grilled.
And I just had a
How's
joint,
your
so-
back pain? How's your quickie? Is it
I
better?
can-
You feel
that-
more
oh.
relaxed?
They brought me in a stretcher. No, I'm fine.
Healed you, dude.
I'm healed.
Guys, thank you for joining us for another HotBox podcast. It's been great. Please, Cannahealth, check them out. They're showing much love, staunch supporters. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Maybe we'll do a little bit of a Christmas special, hey?
Yeah, a December special.
Yeah, Christmas
let's
special.
Let's work on it.
Christmas.
Maybe we got one before Christmas one. Yeah. And there is no downtown Christmas this year. We're finished with this year. We're gonna we're slowly starting to figure out 420 in
That's a big one.
Dagga couple land.
That's a big one.
All systems are go for D-Day 2018, our 6th.
Yes,
And let's see if we can give you some surprises because we're starting early on this one.
Yeah,
Cool.
It's going to be well worth the wait.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Cool.
It'll take about 15 seconds while I turn on that shit.
It's alright, we'll get fucking
really
late.
embarrassing.
So let's hotbox.